Hi friends, my name is Angela and welcome back to my YouTube channel. We are at the end of May and thankfully we finally have gotten some autumn winter weather here in Perth. It's been raining all weekend and it's just perfect. We've been waiting for the rains to come and they're finally here. So it feels very wintry, very autumnly here at the moment. And I'm excited to share with you what I read in May. It was a good month. They weren't big books, but they were just beautiful stories that I read, and I can't wait to share them with you. There's a couple of books in there I don't think I have shared previously, which is exciting. But one thing I did want to share with you, so just with this seasonality, which I really do enjoy, was in the Gardener's Bed book, which I shared with you a while ago. I've been reading this here and there at night time, and it's really lovely. And I came across this little one around autumn, and it just really evokes that autumn sense of what I feel we are experiencing at the moment. There is a quality to autumn dew that cannot be found in the dew of spring or summer. It sharpens the nostrils the way a dab of bloater paste on toast edges the appetite of a cold morning. Dusk is the time to enjoy it. In the valley, the mist softly gathers and moves steal across the farther hills. From the ground rise faint and penetrating fumes, the honey aroma of late phlox, the pungent spice of yarrow foliage and of helenium flowers from the nearby border, the saccharine fragrance of a late clematis star, and overlying all these subtleties, the persistent sweaty spice of wet soil and damp fallen leaves. It kind of feels like it is right now, with the added element of a lot of gum and eucalyptus just in the air everywhere. So this has been enjoyable, dipping into this. If you're a gardener, if you're a nature lover, it's got some lovely little bits in there. So I've enjoyed reading that one. But I thought what I might do is share with you a little bit about my month and kind of like what's been on my mind and going on. So I feel like this winter is going to be the winter of health for me. I remember years ago hearing that summer bodies are made in winter, and I think that winter is just the perfect time to dive deep and be introspective and whatever it is that you want to look into. And for me, it is most definitely about health and well-being, and I'm trying to find ways of being purposeful in my downtime. Self-care is something that is interesting, where I think it's gone from just being gentle with yourself at certain times to becoming a checklist of things that you should be doing. You have that bubble bath, have that latte, buy that shirt you really want. These sort of things have become self-care, and for me it's a bit more about a gentleness and an awareness with yourself. And anyway, I've been going through a number of health things over the last year, and so I'm starting to identify that I need to make some changes in how I manage my downtime and how I find ways to reduce stress and decompress. And so one of the things that I've started doing in this month was I've started going to a reformer Pilates class just up the road from me. It's like 5 minutes away, which is quite unique because I don't live in the city. I live about 30 minutes away from the city, but it does mean that we don't have a lot of great things up near us in terms of restaurants or health clubs or things like that. A lot of that stuff is towards the city or further south. So for me to find a Pilates reformer class that is the price it is, that is the way it's set up, is really quite miraculous, and I'm enjoying that I found it. It's only just opened in March, but I go a couple of mornings a week because I work from home 2 days a week, so it's nice to be able to pop up there before work, get the reformer class in, and then I feel so much better, and I do enjoy it. The reformer is interesting, where you can feel very uncoordinated at times, but once you get that motion, it becomes this fluidity, and it feels very much dance related. Something about it kind of reminds me that fluidness and the repetition. I'm enjoying that, and so that's definitely something I want to continue over winter. And I think it would be great when it's those mornings that I particularly don't want to do a dog walk or go outside to exercise because of the weather, where I can go to this class just a few minutes up the road from me. Something else that I tried this month, which was new, was a couple of forms of massage. And over the last 6 months, I've been experiencing a lot of tension headaches, and it seems to be related to my jaw, and so I'm seeing a dentist and whatever. But I was like, okay, well, I can maybe hopefully prevent it, but I need to kind of manage it. So I thought I'll look into a bit of massage, and I'm seeing my chiropractor as well. And it's kind of led me into this entire world of all of the muscle structure within your jaw and your masseter muscle, the TMJ, all these things that are working together as you use your jaw to eat or talk, whatever. And that is where I'm getting all this tension from. So I am seeing a chiropractor, and she started doing some trigger point things inside my mouth, which is really interesting. And then I decided to do a buccal massage, which is actually intra-mouth massage, along with massage along the jaw and cheek, superficially around that area. And it is marvelous. I really, really did enjoy it. A lot of people do a buccal massage for cosmetic reasons. You know, when your muscles are all tense and knotted, it creates like they become fatter essentially. So constantly relieving those muscles slims the face down, but these massages promote elasticity and firmness. But for me, it's all about just getting someone to really massage that area and allow me to lay in a dark room for an hour and not think about anything else, and really try and just be present and enjoy this moment of complete self-care and relaxation. And buccal massage is kind of similar to, I think it's described as a bit of a soft tissue massage, but for your jaw, your mouth, your cheeks, and it was incredible. I could feel the muscles relaxing as she was doing it. So I think I'll continue to do that. But I wanted to let you know, because if you're someone else who experiences tension headaches or jaw pain or ear pain because of the jaw, I'd recommend looking into it if you can find a good massage masseuse. It was really, really quite good, and I look forward to probably doing it on a monthly basis from now. So in addition to that, I'm really in a good place with my reading. Reading is definitely somewhere where I'm trying to find that downtime, and it's something that is really I'm enjoying it at the moment. I'm coming up to 6 months of YouTubing, and there was a moment in the middle there, like maybe around March or April, where I felt I was forcing it. But now I'm just in a bit of a really good rhythm. I'm enjoying having the permission, because I have to do these videos with you. I feel like I have the permission to be selfish and sit down and read a book, maybe rather than do something else that, you know, is vying for my attention. So it does feel a little selfish at times, but it shouldn't. These are just little ways that I'm finding ways to care for my health and my well-being. And I hope you have something similar that you do to provide yourself some self-care, you know, beyond the bubble bath. And these are the things that are definitely working for me at the moment. So anyway, that leads me into what I read in May. And like I said, it was a good month. It was a good month. I read 6 books, and I'm going to go through them with you now. There's a couple that I don't think I've shared them with you before. And there's a contemporary classic. There's a couple of memoirs, maybe one memoir. Yeah, I think you might be surprised. Anyway, so the first book that I read for the month was Heartburn by Nora Ephron. And this was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. Nora Ephron is so well known for her screenwriting and directing of romantic comedies in the 80s and 90s. Her language, her wit, her observations of people, really, really wonderful. She has been responsible for a number of my favorite movies. And after I read this just a little while ago, I rewatched When Harry Met Sally and You've Got Mail, which was wonderful, which are great autumn movies if you're looking for something to watch at this time of year. But I really enjoyed the wit. I'm not someone who I don't really want to get behind romantic comedies that are, you know, relying on vulgarity or toilet humor, I guess, to get the laughs. I really enjoy the wit and the dialogue that Nora Ephron gave to those movies. So this particular book, though, was written published in 1983. Gosh, it's quite a few years old now. I think this is the 40th anniversary edition, this one. We follow Rachel, who is a mother. She is 7 months pregnant. She is a cookbook author, and she just finds out that her husband is having an affair. And from the first few pages, it's really quite gripping and relatable. You can really relate to Rachel, even though you may not have been 7 months pregnant with a cheating husband. It's really tender at times and very funny, laugh out loud funny, as we follow Rachel, where she flips between wanting her husband dead and wanting to reunite and repair their marriage. And throughout, there's a number of recipes which really match what is happening in the book at that time or in the story at that time. And they fit within her background as being a cookbook author. It's a lot of fun, very relatable, a lot of laughs, and I highly recommend it. I would consider it a contemporary classic, but I don't know at what point you start to say that it's a classic, but that was really great. So if you haven't yet picked it up, I really recommend it, and then go watch all of Nora Ephron's movies. I practically shouted from the rooftops when I shared this with you in my vlog weekend away video that this may be my favorite book of 2024, and that hasn't changed, but there's another one in here vying for that at the moment. Graft by Maggie McKellar is a memoir, and it's a really interesting format the way that she's gone about it. It documents 1 year over 4 seasons on her and her husband's Tasmanian merino farm. They face incredibly harsh conditions, which when I think about Tasmania, I think about rolling hills and rivers, and they are on the east coast of Tasmania, which is quite arid and dry, and they are facing the worst drought that they can ever recall. Maggie really loves the land, she loves animals, she loves nature, and she shares her journey in here as she tries to save lambs and ewes through this lambing season, while she's also observing nature and birds around her. And she talks about her relationship with her other animal companions like her dogs and horses. It really is a pure escape into another world, and it doesn't read like it's just dialogue after dialogue. There's little drawings in here. There's some, I think etymology is the right word, just like information about animals. But it's a beautiful story about motherhood, about nature. If you're into nature writing, you have to pick this up. And it's really takes you to that rugged, rough, raw Tasmanian coastline. So I highly recommend it. And it was a great autumn read as well. The next book I picked up was Long Island by Tóibín. This is a long-awaited sequel to Brooklyn. I think it's 20 years between books, and I don't know if Tóibín originally thought he was going to do a sequel, but this felt so natural, picking this up after having read Brooklyn just a couple of months ago. The story really did just continue, even though it's 20 years for us, and it is actually 20 years for Eilish in here as well. So she's gone through the same period of time. If you haven't read Brooklyn and you want to, without any spoilers, probably skip this review. You can skip to this timestamp because this is a sequel and there are going to be probably some spoilers as to how Brooklyn turns out. So we join Eilish in 1976 in spring, and she is in her 40s. She is married to Tony Fiorello, who is one of 4 American-Italian brothers, and they do live on that cul-de-sac that they envisaged in Brooklyn. They all live together, they all work together, they all play together. She is in this huge extended family. The brothers, 2 of the brothers are married. Her parents-in-law live on the street, and they do everything together. And Eilish and Tony have 2 teenage children, but you can see that even though all this time has passed, she still very much feels like an outsider. She has such strong ties to Ireland still, and her family, which she references a lot to her children, but she hasn't been back to Ireland since she was there at the end of Brooklyn. So even though she hasn't been back, she still has very, very strong ties, and she feels like a real outsider to her husband's family. I think she's very much alone in her marriage and in her community. Then her world is kind of flipped on its head when 2 pages into this book, it just straight out the bat, 2 pages into the book, a man comes to Eilish's door and asks for her by name. He says that his wife is pregnant with Tony's baby, and that he is not going to raise it. He is going to drop it off at Eilish's doorstep, and Tony and Eilish can raise this baby as their own. He doesn't want anything to do with it. And so the story is all about how Eilish deals with this news, how she reacts, and it really takes her down a journey laden with secrets from a lot of people. There's a lot of longing. We get a couple of other narratives in here as well. It is a really, really wonderful sequel. It does not feel forced. It is very well, it just joins beautifully to the original book, to Brooklyn. I am so appreciative that Tóibín wrote this second one because I loved being in Eilish's world. I highly recommend it. Definitely give it a go. So after I read Brooklyn, I got a number of recommendations from you guys on other Tóibín books that are phenomenal. And one that really piqued my interest was The Testament of Mary. And the concept really intrigued me from the beginning. So I thought, after I read Long Island, I'm going to continue on the Tóibín train, and I read this one. It is a short book. I think it's 115, 120 pages, but man, is it powerful. It is so powerful. We meet Mary a few years after her son has died, a pretty horrific death, and she is still grappling with it. She is grief-ridden, she is angry, she is regretful, we join her as she remembers things that have happened, and she looks back on the past, and she's still digesting everything that has happened. Only thing I would say about this is do not read it and expect it to be a transcription of history. I was a little distracted because when I went into it knowing the Bible stories, I was a bit distracted by that. But ultimately, it is Mary's story. She is not the serene, peaceful Virgin Mary in this book. She feels a lot of guilt about how she reacted to all of the events surrounding her son's death. Ultimately, I think she's asking the question of, was it worth it? Was all of it worth it? Which the answer in here might surprise you. So it's a really great, insight to how she might have felt. Just the idea of how a mother could have possibly watched their child go through the things that Jesus went through is beyond comprehension. I did tear up quite a bit at a few things in here, but I'm so glad I read it. Thank you to the person who recommended this to me. I really appreciate it. I'm glad I picked it up, and I would recommend it. It is a beautiful story. It is heavy, but it is so human. Colm Tóibín has a wonderful way of articulating women's thoughts, I think, and I think it's a really great story. So even if you are not Christian, if you don't know the story of Jesus, I still recommend it. From a mother's perspective, this is quite powerful, and I think it was really, 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 really well done. And I've got a number of other Colm Tóibín books that I want to read in the future. He's got quite a back catalogue that I can take my time going through. So the next book I finally finished was In the Garden, Essays on Nature and Growing, which is published by Daunt Books in the UK, and it is the third in a series of 3 collections of essays about different things. So the first one was At the Pond, Swimming at the Hampstead Heath Ladies Pond, and In the Kitchen, essays on food and cooking, and then this one. And I have not read In the Kitchen yet, but I most definitely will. So this is a selection of 14 essays, and ultimately it's about how being in nature and growing things makes you more aware, it makes you more observant of the natural world around you. And it also gives you the message that you don't have to have a garden to be a gardener. You know, people in here are growing out of allotments, out of windowsills, out of containers. It's a really, really lovely book. And I had a couple of authors on here I hadn't read yet. There was Elizabeth Jane Burnett, Jamaica Kincaid, and Nigel Slater. And I think I want to pick up a couple of Nigel Slater's books for sure. His memoir, I think, is Toast. So I want to read that one too. But his writing was really lovely. So I do recommend it. It was a beautiful, beautiful little collection of essays, and I will get In the Kitchen next. And the last book I read in May was Drift by Carol Lewis. And wow. This book was amazing, absolutely amazing. If it wasn't for Graft, this would be my top book for the month, which is saying something. So Carol Lewis is a Welsh author, and Drift is the first book that she's written in the English language. To date, all of her books were in Welsh. So it really kind of puts things into perspective, where if she had written this in Welsh, I don't know if I would have ever been able to read it. I don't know if it would have been translated. I don't know. So first of all, I'm so grateful she wrote this in English. It was published in 2022, and it's got a number of different genres within this. It has an element of magical realism. It is a love story, and we start off with Neffin, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing her name wrong. Neffin lives with her twin brother Joseph in this cottage, which is remote from the town. It is overlooking the Welsh coastline. And she is a bit of an enigma. We realize there's something unusual about Neffin, and her brother is sedating her, essentially encouraging her to take this medication to quell whatever it is that is going on with her. So she's living this real half life. And then we pick up another narration from the perspective of Hamza, who is a Syrian map maker who has been incarcerated, and he is a prisoner of the military. And he's been with them. He's been a prisoner for a number of years. I think it's six or more years. He's really given up on life. He has nothing more to live for, in his opinion. We have these 2 different narratives, and there is a large storm that brings the 2 of them together, and then there are circumstances trying to tear them apart again. But throughout all of this is this thread of Welsh folklore, bringing this real magical element to the story. But the interesting thing is that it doesn't distract from the plot at all. It is so well done that it's just magical enough to give it just a little bit of fairy dust. There's something about it. I really did enjoy it. The writing is beautiful. The characters are so endearing, but it is gripping, it is original, and it is magical. So I highly recommend this one, and I hope that I get to read a few more Carol Lewis books in the future. So that was my month of reading. It was a good month. Good month. Not big books, like I said, but I'm really happy with that. And I read some interesting stories, some diverse stories. I think I would definitely choose Graft and Drift to be my favorite books for the month. And that's saying something because Long Island was in there, and Long Island might come in third. But anyway, I would love to hear what your favorite book for May was. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all of your comments. I love chatting with you and getting all your recommendations. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead, and I will see you next week. Bye.